are tuning in to Sis Let's Talk Leadership, and my name is Kristi Burns.
And I'm Melissa Walsh.
And this is where we unmask the myths.
And we own the journey. And tonight we're going to talk about leadership as a team sport. Who's your person?
Who is your person? And then we have the amazing guest, Lindsey Franks. And we're going to let Lindsey introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Lindsey Franks, and I am a respiratory and PDL manager at a pediatric hospital. I am a mom to two little toddlers, nearly 3 and just turned 4. And I just keep busy all the time. You know, they don't let you rest too much. And I live here in Texas.
Texas. That's amazing. So we are so honored to have you here with us. And we're looking forward to the insights that you have to bring based off of your journey, just in the role that you have now and any other role that you've held before then. And so as we get started, just with the topic in general, leadership is a team sport. What do you feel like that means to you? Because I feel like it's a two-way street. There's two different ways to look at it. And I'm interested to kind of know what your thoughts are.
I also feel like there's two ways to look at it. And personally, I love sports. So I think this is a great topic.
Okay.
I'm a really big football fan, and I actually love to listen to like coaches talking. So this is right up my alley. But the way that I look at leadership as a team sport, I look that I need to lead my team and we need to share a vision and to complete a goal. And then I also look at my leadership pod is also a team sport. So my leadership, we also have to have that same vision and goal, and that it trickles down into the team.
Yeah, that does. That's what it is in a nutshell. You're absolutely correct.
Kristi, yeah. I was going to ask, we're talking about sports and sports a game. Are there any games you'd like to play today?
There is a game that I would like to play today. Since we are big on unmasking the myths and owning the journey, let's unmask who we are as individuals. And this is for us to get to know a little bit more about each other, and then also for our listeners to know a little bit more about ourselves as well. So it's called Unmask Who You Are, where I ask a question and you have 30 seconds off the top of your head to come up with an answer.
Okay.
And we're going to get started now. So if your friends had to describe 3 words, what would they say?
Loud, fun, and probably silly.
That's true. For me, I think people would say that I am also loud, but they would say that I'm a great listener and that I can be very good at giving advice when asked. I've had to learn to not give advice unless I'm asked for it.
Okay. And then I would say, look, all 3 of us must be loud because I've definitely heard that I'm loud. And then something else is I'm grounded. And I also, there's not a moment that when you talk to me that God won't come up. I'm spiritual.
That's awesome.
Love it.
So if you weren't doing the current job that you were doing now, what would be your dream job?
Like if we're just going to go all out with like a dream job, I would probably be living on the beach, being like, I don't know, probably like a tour guide on the water.
That's so fitting for you because you know like the most random facts.
Yes.
There's not a moment. And you're a great storyteller. You always have a story about something.
Wow. Okay.
I think for me, I would love to be a baker because I've had to learn how to bake because we didn't grow up baking in the house, and I really love baking. I'm not excellent at it, but I'd love to be like a really good baker. That'd be my dream job.
A baker. Okay, well, we're gonna have to get you in the kitchen. I love some bacon, so we'll have to do that. And then for me, I would probably either be a meteorologist because I love the weather. And when I don't know the weather, like my friends literally will ask me in the morning, so I mean, is it gonna rain today? What is it gonna be? And I'm like, I haven't looked at it. And they're like, what? You're slacking. Like, come on, get on it. Or I would be a MC.
Ooh,
That's a good one.
that'd be good. That'd be fun.
I could see that.
I totally would. Okay, so when you hear the word peace, what comes to mind instantly?
And love.
Tranquility, harmony.
I thought peace and love, you guys. That's what I thought.
And I thought freedom,
Ooh,
like freedom, because when you are at peace, you are so free.
that's
That's
true.
mentally, physically, however you would like to look at it. And then one last question. If you could go back and tell your younger self one truth, what would it be?
I would tell myself that everything will work out in God's plan.
Mhm.
Don't stress over the small things.
That's good.
I would tell my younger self, "You are enough."
Mm.
Mm.
And I guess we're all along the same lines because I would tell myself, girl, you're going to do great things and you got it. Just that simple. You got it. Keep going.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
So I feel like we're just best friends now, you
I
know?
know.
And so are our listeners. So that's great. So, okay, let's talk about, we already gave like what we think about like just leadership being a team sport in general. But are there or have there been any particular times where you feel like you weren't able to do a particular task or make a particular decision about something because you didn't have the support either from below, which is like buy-in, or you didn't have support from above?
Sure. I think all of us have felt that way at some point in our career. There was a time in my career where, you want to impact real change, but maybe people get stuck in their ways, and change is hard for everybody
Mhm.
um, to embrace.
Mhm.
So I think that maybe sometimes there has been some leadership where, this is working, let's not rock the boat. We're not doing wonderful, but we're not doing bad. We're just right here in this okay zone. Let's not rock it. So, you're just not getting the support to say, yeah, let's make improvements. Let's take what we have and let's make it better. I think was probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had in my leadership journey.
That's awesome. I think that you talked about 2 things, and I don't know if you meant to be that deep, but you talked about, like, misalignment, right? And earlier when we first started, you talked about how you feel that teamwork and leadership you have to share a vision with
Mhm.
not just the team that is reporting up to you that you are responsible for leading, but
Mhm.
also with the team that you are partnering with and leading with.
Mhm,
So you mentioned 2 things, misalignment, but also being stagnant. Like sometimes
mhm,
we kind of get you're right, like we want to continue to do the same things we've been doing because it's working, right?
Mhm.
And I something I heard someone the other day say was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mhm.
right.
But like define what you mean by it's not broke.
Yeah.
Defined
Mhm.
by what? Is it not broke because you're not bothered by it?
Mhm.
Because you don't see how it's impacting other things in the workflow of being able to provide access or being able to make things easier for people? Can you talk a little bit more about how you as a leader have navigated not being aligned with either your team that you're trying to get buy-in from, or you have been misaligned with your
So I would like to angle it with maybe my team that just really didn't want to buy in on, a change that we were trying to implement. I think really taking the time and explaining the why
Mhm.
we are doing this. And if we don't do this, what impacts will it have in our future? And really just having a lot of conversations
Mhm.
about their feelings,
Mhm.
why they don't want to align, what is making them block everything. And those conversations take a lot of time and they can be emotionally draining as a leader because we have a lot of team members that are underneath us. And taking the time with those that really need to vent their frustrations and say, hey, I understand why this is difficult. And
Right.
I understand how this is impacting you and maybe impacting your family and the trickle down effect that it could be having.
Mhm.
And I really think really taking that time to speak with everybody individually, and it may take a couple of weeks to really get everybody on board. But if you take that extra time, I think eventually everybody comes together. And if they can really understand, hey, I know this is not a popular choice by everybody, but
Mhm.
if we're not going to implement this, this could have some detrimental effects in our future and really explain it down to the nitty gritty. I
Mhm.
think people can eventually wrap their head around it. But
Mhm.
usually nobody likes to just be like, yeah, change, let's do it. This is
Yeah.
great. It takes time for people to process and accept why there is change and why we have to do it.
Yeah. And when I think about support, whether it's coming from a leader or coming from trying to get buy in from a team, it goes directly to me with trust. What are you
Mhm.
to build the trust within your team? What are you doing to create psychological safety for the team? And what I realized just within my journey is that you can create meaning that people feel super safe to come to you and talk about their concerns. They feel heard, their voice, they feel seen. But if you do nothing about what they tell you,
Mhm.
you're in a vicious cycle. There is no psychological safety. So you're starting over with a new foundation. And then you have to try to generate that buy in again. And so I think it's very important to sometimes be that servant leader, but then also kind of turn it into one that's inclusive, where if it gets to that point to where you're not getting the buy in, ask them, well, what do you expect? How would you handle the situation? Because sometimes we're so driven by titles and driven by, well, I'm supposed to have the answers and, oh, I'm supposed to
Mhm.
figure out the solution when really I don't. Like, we can collectively do this as a team, and then with them feeling like they've been a part of the solution, that's where you turn around and have the buy-in, and in return, you've created trust, and in return, you have that psychological safety that is actually more so off of actions and not words. And so that's how support, I feel like, happens from, the team and then from above. I mean, it's a similar thing. It's just that actions speak louder than words. So what are we doing to hold ourselves accountable? Because accountability is a part of that as well. And
Mhm.
for it to have that ripple down effect, like you said, Lindsay, because it kind of starts, at the top. And so that's something that I've dealt with, I would say, on probably more than what I would want. But I feel like those challenges have created a lot of growth. And once you make it through one situation, it kind of helps you navigate through the other ones that are similar.
I agree. And, it's so interesting about the trust aspect.
Mhm,
Um, especially your leadership that's above you. If you don't have trust in your leadership that is above you to make these choices,
mhm,
it's very hard to trickle that trust down and have your team trust you
mhm,
because they can sense that too of like, we're kind of having to do this, but I'm a little leery about it. But hey, and then they pick up, what you're presenting. And
mhm,
so I really think also really having trust at the top, or at
mhm,
least having one good leadership friend
mhm,
in your corner and having that trust to break this down and say, hey, this is really hard and it's going to impact a lot of
Mhm.
people. And
mhm,
I have to, make this psychologically safe for everybody else. And
mhm,
how do we go about it? And being able to have those vulnerable conversations with your leaders to
mhm.
also take it to your team.
Right. And something that you just point out is having that person, which is another segment of what the topic was today was who was your person. But one thing that I found out most recently is that I have utilized not only a person for accountability, but HR. And I know that we tend to kind of like shy away from
Mhm.
that. But I have solicited advice. Like I have actually asked, hey, these are my thoughts. This is what I'm thinking. But what is the best way for me to approach this with the team? What is the best way? Because I feel like some people shy away from it too because it's like maybe a sign of weakness. Oh, you're asking for help, and as a leader, you should know what it is. But the moment that you realize that you don't have all the answers is the moment that you really figure it out. So you
Mhm.
don't know it all. So seek that guidance in that person that you're referring to. And also, HR can be your best friend. And it's not setting anything up for failure or looking to bring out the negative because typically that's what they deal with. It's more so, like I said, a guidance of what would be the best way? How would this be received in my approach, or is my approach going to be received well? So, do you feel like you have a person right now?
I do have a person. I'm very lucky
Hmm.
that I have a person that I can really rely on, depend on, share my frustrations,
Hmm.
everything,
Hmm.
just vent and maybe even have some moments of tears.
Yeah.
And luckily, that person also knows me so well. They know that when I'm drained as a leader,
Hmm.
and they can sense it from me and they can say, hey, maybe you should take a day off, you
Hmm.
know, take some time for yourself.
Yeah.
And excuse me, that alone is very invaluable
Mhm.
where you have somebody that can just read you so well where, hey, maybe I'm going to try to keep pushing through.
Yeah.
But if I'm just wearing myself down, I'm not going to be good for my team. And
Mhm.
so having somebody that can say, hey, hold on, no, you're really exhausted emotionally, just take a day off, rest up, come back better has been extremely helpful. And just having somebody to bounce ideas off of and just share my happiness or my frustrations or my sadness.
Mhm.
No, it's so great you mentioned that, Lindsay, because Kristi was talking about accountability, like having a person to hold you accountable. And I think sometimes that people can say, like, oh, someone's holding me accountable. They're making sure that I'm doing what I need to do in regards to
Mhm,
getting tasks completed. But accountability also means like that, hey, you need a timeout. Like, you need to
mhm.
check out, you need to tap out. I'll tap in. You go take care of yourself. There's nothing that you will be able to accomplish in the next 2, 3, 4 hours
Yeah.
because you're already tired. So it's not
Yeah,
going to be the best work that you want to do. And it's not going to be a true reflection of what you want it to be. And I think that that's something that we have to continue to remember as leaders is you have to be in tune with your team. You have to have a good pulse on what's going on.
Yeah.
Just for full disclosure, Lindsay and I work together. And I'm
Mhm.
going to share a funny story about
Okay.
her.
Yeah.
So a couple weeks ago, it was Boss's Day.
Okay.
It was Boss's Day.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I knew was, we have team members. They're going through a lot, right? Like they're taking care of the patients, they're trying to take care of their own families at home. There
Mhm.
were a lot of things that happened for us that maybe didn't allow our team to maybe get as many hours as they needed to get in to be able to cover all the stuff that they needed to do and things like that. But so then I was thinking to myself, like, okay, bosses week is coming up.
Mhm.
What can we do? What can we, get done? And I didn't say anything. So I actually went and got gifts for my leaders, for
Mhm.
the leaders that reported to me. And I gave them some gifts and I called them in individually because I don't like to embarrass them or anything like
Hey.
that.
Mhm.
And I called Lindsay in and I was like, "Hey, I need to talk to you about something. Can you come to my office?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll be right there. I'll be right there." She's always like, "I'll
Mhm.
be right there." She comes down and I hand her a gift. And it wasn't anything big, it wasn't anything flashy. It was something that I saw that made me
Yeah.
think of her that I
Yeah.
knew she would use.
Mhm.
And she's like, "What do you mean happy boss's day? You're my boss. You're my boss. Like this is supposed to be the other way around. What do
Mhm.
you mean?" And this girl bolts out of my office. I don't see her for like 2 hours.
What?
She comes back and she's like, "Alright," and she's sweating bullets.
Uh-huh.
And she's in her scrubs, and she likes to wear this jacket over a t-shirt with her scrubs.
Yeah.
And she comes in, takes the scrub off. She's like, "I'm just so hot. I'm so hot." And I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" And
Yeah.
she's like, "Here you go. I got you something. You thought that I wasn't ready, but I got you something."
Wow.
And this girl got
Mhm.
me a fake plant, a fake plant. And she
Mhm.
says to me, "I got you a blanket because sometimes it gets cold in your office. And it's really soft and it's pink. And I think you like pink. I think that's your favorite color. And I would assume you like, soft things. But I got you this fake plant because I know that you work a lot and it's been a while since you've been outside and touched grass."
Okay.
Had to go run to I was like Home Goods or At Home or something, and I mean, we had a meeting at 9 o'clock. The
Yeah.
meeting ended at 9:30, and I'm like, "I am going to go book it through the store really quick," and
Yeah.
I am just bebopping through all the aisles as fast as I can, just, like, trying to get back before she calls and notices that I'm gone to go get her a gift, and
Yeah.
so I am on a full-on sweat, but
Mhm.
they had this, like, little plant that was just had little grass, like plastic grass, and I'm
Yeah.
like, when you feel like you haven't gone outside in a while, you could touch some grass, or
Yeah.
when people are out of touch and
Yeah.
you need to tell them to touch some grass,
Mhm.
it is
Mhm.
there for that too.
Mhm. That was so thoughtful. It's the thought
It
that
was.
so thoughtful. She was not gonna
It
let the day
was.
pass by without recognizing you as well.
Mhm. Yes, but I had to remind her that in the future when I get her a gift, It's
Mhm,
not an invitation for it to be an immediate exchange. It's
mhm,
just like, "Hey, thank you for what you do." And, Lindsay, you talked about carrying out unpopular decisions that we do all the time, and I can think of 2 very specific situations where I don't know that you could have beat the horse to dust any further. Like, you spend so much time talking to people, but one of the things that I really appreciated that you did is, like, yes, you let people come talk to you about it, but then you hit a point where you told your team, "Hey, listen, I have heard you. Now we're talking in circles. Now it's done." Right? It's okay
mhm,
to open the doors for those conversations, but very much like what Christy said is at some point, like, you've taken as much action as you can on something, knowing that this change is gonna happen and it's gonna stay, it's implemented because it's what's required
mhm,
for, whatever the rationale is for that, and I think something you've done very well is you do provide space for people to come talk to you. You do provide an opportunity for, "Hey, listen, this is gonna happen. Why don't you tell me
mhm,
what you think we can do to make it equitable, to
mhm.
make it easier to digest." But then you get to the point where you're like, "Okay, listen, we talked about this
Yeah,
on this day, on this day, and this day. We have done the best that we can. This is as good as it gets. I
mhm,
appreciate you, but we need to move on now."
Yes, yes. I mean, there's things that we have to implement as an organization or even just as a departmental goal
yeah,
that we have to implement. And, we can talk our feelings out about it
mhm,
and we can wrap our brains around it. But even though it still may not be popular, nothing's going to change because we have to implement this change.
mhm,
So if you keep fighting against it, it's not going to make your life any easier. And if I keep listening and I can't do anything about it,
yeah,
as a leader, that can also be very draining on you. So it just has to get to the point. There was a time where we had to implement a change where we had to flex people. And Melissa was saying, not all the team members were getting their hours. And
mhm,
I know that is so tough. If
yeah,
I was in that spot and I have to take care of my family and, I'm going to be stressed about the bills and, hey, we didn't do this in the past. Why are we doing it now? You know, I listened to everybody and I understood because I would have felt the same way. But
Mhm,
after like 2 weeks, I was developing an eye twitch. Like, would not go away. It really wouldn't. And I would just go and like hold my eye because it just
mhm,
wouldn't stop. And then eventually I had to get to a point where it's like, I hear you. I understand. I feel the same way if I was in your shoes, but there's nothing we can change about this. We
yeah.
have to implement it because if we don't, it's going to have some devastating impacts in the future.
You said something and it reminded me of something that I say when I get in similar situations to where we just kinda don't have a choice.
Hmm.
Implementation's got to happen, but hey, let's talk it out. Let's listen to the feelings. Let's do all the things. But one thing that I categorize that in from a spiritual standpoint is let's go ahead and honor the flesh for a little bit. Let's get the
mhm,
emotions out. Let's talk about
mhm,
it. That's the fleshly response. Okay. And then let's trust and have the faith that all things are going to work together for our good. It's going to go smooth. If there are going to be hiccups, then we'll be able to handle those hiccups when they come. So, honoring the flesh is not a bad thing. It's not saying that, oh, I still don't have the faith. Oh, I still don't believe. No, you're honoring it because it's a natural response to any change in anything that you're doing, whether it's in your personal life or professionally, or as a leader in this circumstance where we're trying to do things the right way, knowing that we kind of don't have a choice to do it. So, yeah, let's honor it and then let's trust that it's going to work out and go from there. And so I know earlier we were talking about gifts. And one thing that came to mind to me too is that sometimes you have people on your team who don't buy in or support you because they either don't know what they bring to the table and they don't
mhm.
know what their strengths are. So, how do you all as leaders recognize that people have potential, which everyone does, but what is there any particular thing that you do in order to recognize their strengths in order for them to do better?
Lindsay,
Sure.
I don't know if you wanna share because 'cause you've had some very interesting situations happen.
Mhm.
I don't know if you wanna share about how you found the strength, in a team member that I think was struggling a lot, and everything was very new to them, and they were in a new area, they were practicing new things, and everything was so scary, and how you kinda help get them past that hump because there were times you and I were meeting, you're like, "I don't know, Melissa. I don't know that we're gonna get this person to the other side of tomorrow.
Mhm.
Like, I'm not sure." But you did some really great things, and you also managed people's expectations because the feedback you were getting was really tough too, and you had to navigate some very interesting situations.
Yeah, when anytime we try something new, especially with new grads
Mhm.
or somebody who just maybe even is coming from adults into pediatrics and, they may have a lot of adult experience but not pediatrics, it's scary going into it and you're unsure about yourself and, you're just, did I do the right thing? And I really had to have some conversations of that like, hey, this is normal to feel this way. It
Mhm.
is normal to feel scared and really until you've got a few years under your belt, you're not going to be comfortable. But
Yeah.
what you're feeling is normal and it's okay.
Mhm.
And then also maybe team members have a perception of, hey, this person turned out to be a disappointment. Well, they're not a disappointment. It's you're disappointed on what you thought
Yeah.
this person should be. It was their own image that
Yeah.
they had
Mhm.
of what they expected somebody to be.
Mhm.
And if
That's
that person
great.
doesn't live up to that expectation, it disappoints them.
Mhm. That's
And so
right.
you have to say, like, you're not disappointed. You're just disappointed in what you thought this was going to be. But you have to change what you thought and say, this is where we are. And how do we build it up from here?
Yeah.
So I think those can be some difficult conversations, and you have to have those conversations quite often and keep building those people up. I also, just in general, we have a system that sends out emails to
Mhm.
our team members if they did something really great. And if they get those from, patients or parents, I want to make sure that they know that I saw it.
Yep.
I also tend to send it to Melissa so she can also see it and recognize so they
Mhm.
know it's not just, hey, it's only me that's seeing this, it's somebody else. And we want to recognize and make sure, like, I'm so proud of you for going above and beyond.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud of you for giving excellent care. Um, and just really every day, just try my best
Mhm.
to be uplifting
Yeah.
and, just keep people going and moving forward.
Mhm. Yeah, so encouragement.
Hmm.
Basically, seems like that's what the foundation of it is being able to encourage people, and then one thing that I try to tell myself and remind others as well is that it's okay. You can give recognition all day, but when you start to be robotic with it, people can read
Hmm.
that it's not genuine. So we have to be intentional about when we provide that feedback or that recognition that you're stating specifically what you're recognizing them for. And I think
Hmm.
that that in return helps them see their strengths because you're telling them, "Hey, you actually did this and you did an amazing job on that. I don't know if you realize how long it took and somebody else
Hmm.
it it they did it a little bit differently, but you, like,
Hmm.
going in to provide the details and being specific, and then that in return helps them realize their strengths, and, like, when we have, excuse me, meetings, I always start the meetings with, like, a kudos, and I have it written on the first slide, and I make sure to state at least 2 things that they have done because we meet monthly, between the last time that we met up until now, so it doesn't seem like, "Oh, well, I did that 6 months ago. Why are you just now telling me?" And it's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, I didn't realize. I thought I said something." But no, I make sure that it's something different, and I make sure that it is specific in what they actually did, and in return, they'll thank you for it, and it also, like I said, helps them recognize, "Okay, well, I actually do that well. Well, maybe I should go read up on this a little bit more, or maybe I should ask some more questions to learn more about this." And then in return, when things happen, you get a little bit more buy-in because now they trust you. So
Hmm.
it all kinda ties back into that, into that trust. But, Melissa, did you had a
No, I was waiting for you to, finish your thought 'cause I'm gonna dive into a little bit more from Lindsay's love for football.
Yes.
Lindsay has a hard and fast rules in the fall.
Yeah.
On Saturday, she likes college football, to be
Mhm.
specific.
Okay.
On Saturdays, she does not exist. You
For
try to
16
call
weeks.
her, yes. You try to text her,
Mhm.
she is nowhere to be found.
Is that right?
Something
Okay.
better be on fire for her to be found
Mhm.
about something.
Mhm.
But I really would love to know kind of what, because you mentioned you love listening to coaches talk and like how they coach and things like that. What strategies, what phrases, what anything have you picked up from listening to those things that you've applied to your everyday just application of leadership?
You know, I'm a Longhorn fan, and I do love a podcast with one of the old great
What is it?
coaches I absolutely love, Mac Brown. And I love his words of wisdom. But, one thing that really resonated with me was he talked about at the beginning when he was a younger coach,
Mhm.
the team was losing. And he went into the locker at halftime and he was like, "You guys suck. You're going to lose. You keep playing like this, you're going to lose." And he's like, "You know what? They lost." And the coach, I believe it was Barry Switzer, big coach, had said, to him, pulled him aside after, and he said, "Well, I knew they were going to lose." And he said, "Well, how'd you know that?" And he said, "You told them they were going to lose. You told them they sucked. You told
Mhm.
them that it was over." He's like,
Mm.
"You got to pick them up. You
Yeah.
have to pick your team up. You have to say, hey, you guys, you still are in this game. You come back. We need to make a few adjustments." And you have to bring them up and show them that they can do it.
Yeah.
And it really resonated with me of that leaders really set the tone in the room.
Mhm.
And if I'm having a bad day and I can get into my own feelings,
Mhm.
I've really tried to check that because I know it is sensed in the room of like, something's going on.
Mhm.
So I try to check my own feelings at the door when I walk into work
Yeah.
and then try to be uplifting and, hey, we can do this. We're going to push through this and let everybody know, like, hey, we're a great team. You're doing great.
Mhm.
Because if you have that bad attitude, they're going to have that bad attitude as well.
That's right. They're gonna model you.
Yes.
So there was a presentation that I did. It's called the Leadership Escalator idea. Melissa, thank you for that. And so basically it was speaking on modeling what you just spoke on from the top and how it goes down to the bottom. But the behind the scenes of the escalator is what no one sees. And that is the work that we're doing on ourselves. And it's
Hmm.
reflection as you go down the escalator. And so our team are the riders. They're the ones that are gonna just go based off of however the escalator works. If we break down, guess what they're gonna do as a rider? Fall down.
Hmm.
So we have to make sure that we're doing our part. So I love that you said that. So do you all feel like there are just like complete non-negotiables for a healthy, high functioning team? Like are there just things that are just
I do. I think that there are. I think that you have to have integrity.
yeah.
And
Hmm.
something that Lindsay and I talk a lot about, and we have
Mhm.
a hard and fast rule. Confidential means confidential. She knows that if she were to say, "Hey, I need to talk, I need to just talk through some things," because a lot of what we have done in the past 2 years that we've been working together has been a lot of coaching, a lot of dialogue. We've balanced and gone back and forth between like coaching, mentorship, and the pockets of friendships that we have, and talking about like leadership truly is a team sport. And
Yeah.
as a leader, you need to be able to navigate those different conversations. Sometimes she'll come to me with, "Hey, I have this idea," right? Like that's when we are trying to mentor, right? We're pouring into them. We're trying to mentor them through those professional ideas.
Mhm.
Sometimes she'll come and she'll be like, I'm done. Like, I can't anymore.
Yeah.
This thing has come up and I cannot anymore."
Right.
And it turns into coaching. And I was like, well, tell me why you can't anymore. And sometimes, I'll ask her enough questions. She's like, I don't know what you want me to say. I've said everything I need to say. She's like, what else do you want? And I'm
Yeah.
like, nothing. Like, I just want you to hear yourself out loud
Yeah.
saying why this matters so much to you, why this is bothering you so much. And she's very good at self reflection
Right.
and at saying, "Oh, I see what you mean. I didn't think about that.
Mhm.
I was seeing it very one-sided. I didn't really consider that perspective." But I will also say that Lindsay has been a very good mirror to
Mm,
me,
mhm.
where I've been in situations because there's other teams that I'm also, responsible for and things that I need to do that are way outside of my realm of comfort. And there's been times where I go to her like, "Hey, I need some perspective." I did that to her literally this week. I need some perspective because I feel like I don't know if I'm losing my mind or if I'm getting so in the depths of how I feel and how I'm being impacted by something that I'm losing sight of what the team needs.
Needs, yeah.
Yeah, and, so I think it's been wonderful not only to be able to pour into her, but sometimes she throws it right back at me,
Mhm.
and I'm like, "Ooh, you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah, that is correct." So
yeah,
I think that integrity and confidentiality, because that's trust,
that's right.
right? If she can't come to me and be vulnerable and truly just say like, "Hey, this is what I'm struggling with," she'll never tell me and she'll never grow, and then I won't grow as a leader, and something that I've said a lot in the last 2 years is, "I wanna be the leader that you need. I can't be that leader if you don't tell me what you need."
Yeah, yeah. I often say, like, be the leader that you would want to follow.
Mhm.
So, like, if you don't want think about what you're doing, be intentional about your actions, and I'm gonna go back to piggyback off of what you said, but privacy, which goes right along with, keeping things confidential. It's confidential, but, things are private. And I had to remind the team the other day, someone had stated to me, "We keep coming to you about this, and I mean, we don't see nothing getting done. We don't understand." And I said I had to let them know that just because it does not appear that something is happening does not mean that it's not. If you
Mhm.
come to me and having a conversation with me, I owe you to not say anything to anyone. And how would that make you feel if I did that? And I said,
Mm.
"So if I go and I have those conversations based off of something that you've told me, I can't come back and tell you just to reassure you because you're in your emotions that it has been handled or it has been done. Just trust me enough." And I asked them, have I shown you by my actions? Forget my words because I can speak all day. But have I shown you by my actions that you can trust me? And they're like, well, yeah, you do this, you do that. I said, okay. So if you come to me and you tell me something, you have to trust that it's being handled, and some things are not gonna happen overnight. Things take time. And so just know that you are being heard and things are in motion. And I personally have your best interest at heart. And the
Mm.
moment that I show you that I do not, I expect you to speak to me as well. And they're like, "What? We can't tell you that." Yes, you can. You tell me,
Mhm.
like, respectful with it, but you definitely can come and let me know, and that's just feedback. You gotta receive it. So we can give it all day, but you gotta be able to receive it. And so I know that probably was like 4 things in one. But yeah, so that's, the non-negotiable for
Yeah.
for me.
I was gonna say, kind of piggyback off of feedback. I think it's so important for leaders to get feedback from their team because if they don't, again, that goes back into trust.
Mhm.
There's times where I maybe have not handled a situation as best as I should have,
Mhm.
especially when I was a younger leader. And, maybe those team members didn't really want to share with me that, hey, I don't feel like you had my best interest. I don't feel like you supported me in the way that I wanted to be supported.
Mhm.
And they didn't tell me that, and it created friction for a while. And I had to have those conversations. I had to approach them and say, like, I know there's friction between us. I know there's something wrong. And I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry if you felt like I didn't give enough in this situation or I
Mhm.
didn't support you the way you needed to be. And I think as leaders, we have to be really humble and realize, like, I'm a human too. I will mess up. I will
Mhm.
say I'm sorry when I know I messed up.
Yeah.
And, next time, please come to me
Mhm.
and just tell me your feelings. And I think, I had to have a few conversations with a couple of team members over an incident that had happened with another team member. And, they just felt like I didn't support them as how they wanted to be. But I had to be neutral in the
Yeah.
situation as well.
Mhm.
So that can kind of put you in a bind.
Mhm.
But I think it made after we had those conversations, I think it made everybody more open to be like, "You can give me feedback. You can tell me if I'm didn't give you what you need, because next
Absolutely.
time I now know what you need and I know how to adjust." And I also grew in my own leadership to be able to be like, I looking back now, I probably didn't handle that situation as well as I should have, but I didn't have other people to kind of guide me um, in the way it should have been dealt with.
Mhm.
So I think trust is just such a huge thing in teamwork.
Yeah, and I often say trust is built in drops and lost in buckets.
Mhm.
I mean, I think I say that at least 3 times a week. It's like so many things to get people to, trust us. And I mean, obviously it goes both ways. But the minute that you do something that wasn't even intentional, you can just take the whole bucket of trust and just throw it out the window. And it's not fair, but ultimately that's what it is. And as you were speaking on support, it made me think of a time where I had to ask someone, you said that I didn't support you, but I feel as if I did. So tell me what support looks like to you.
Mhm.
Right.
What does support look like? And then we can come to a common ground on now I know kind of how to move forward. It's just like me having a conversation, with my husband on how we would disagree on something, but then we would have to come back together to say, hey, this is how I expected you to handle it. And this is what it looks like to me, and vice
Hmm.
versa. And then the next time something comes up, it's like, oop, I already know how he want me to
Hmm.
handle. So it's not about, personal. It's just compromising a little bit in order to make them feel supported, how they feel.
Absolutely. And everybody wants to be supported in different ways, and we can only
Mhm.
do our best. And
Yeah.
again, like you were saying, like I felt like I was being supportive, but
Mhm.
there's also things that people don't really get to see behind the scenes of how you're supporting people.
Yeah.
You are trying to be maybe confidential about a certain situation.
Yes.
So behind closed doors, you're having conversations and you are supporting that person.
Yep.
But unfortunately, they don't get to see that.
Mhm.
So they feel not supported. And
Mhm.
then as leaders too, our feelings can get hurt because you're like, well, why are you mad at me? I was supporting you. And, they just didn't feel it. And you have to have those compromising conversations of like you said, what does support look like to you?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think something too that I'd like to add of kind of what a non-negotiable is,
Mhm.
you have to have fun, man. Like,
Mhm.
you just have to find ways to have fun in leadership
Yeah, you
because
do.
if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
Yeah.
Lindsay and I, we've had our share of fun. I've been stuck on a seesaw with Lindsay.
Yes.
I've gone on probably the best birthday walk of my life.
Yeah.
Lindsay and I have bebopped each other's nose at a
Mhm.
professional dinner because we were just being silly and
Mhm.
we had the whole table just laugh. Like Lindsay and I will literally get invited to places just because people want us around together.
That's
Mhm.
It like we'll go to meetings and they're
yeah.
like, "Oh, we're so glad you guys are here." And it really does. Like it really does matter who's on your team. It really
Yeah.
does matter because some days are rough, some days are long, some weeks are long. We joked around today about like, "Hey, look, this is we saw this image and at the beginning it was like this sweet, cute little like chicken, and
Mhm.
at the end it was like a little disheveled chicken." I was like, "Look, that's how we start the week. That's how we end the week."
Mhm.
But you have to find ways to make light of the tough things because the days will be long, the weeks will be long. There's some things that it's hard and we get pulled in so many different directions. I'm curious to know, in the spirit of the theme of, leadership is a a sport, is a team sport. What
Yeah.
is your guys' touchdown? Like when you look at like, here's your week, here's your month, here's your year. What's your touchdown? Like what's your ultimate touchdown in leadership? I made you think.
And a touchdown for me is how I made someone else feel. How I was able to support them, how I was able to help them push through. And I often find myself sometimes just sitting at my desk and I'm doing something and I feel like the spirit will be like, go to this ICU and talk to this therapist. And I'm like, no, I'm busy right now. I'm not doing that.
Not
And
right now, spirit.
yeah, to just prick at me. And then I go down there, the person is having a horrible day.
Mm,
and I just happened to say the right thing at the right time and be at the right place. And so just allowing myself to be used to uplift people and send a message that I didn't even know I was supposed to be sending at the end of the
mhm.
day makes me happy. That makes me feel fulfilled. And I always say as long as I'm able to sleep at night, I know that I've done well. So
That's
that's
a
it.
great touchdown.
That is.
Ew.
This may sound silly, but it does make me feel good inside when it happens. And I'm like, touchdown. So I have definitely noticed, I feel like with, I think almost really everybody, when you're at work, everybody wants a buddy, right? Like
Mhm.
nobody
Mhm.
wants to be the one that's like the loner. And you notice that people click up in little groups. So when I am interviewing to onboard new people, I always try to keep in the back of my mind, like, who doesn't have a buddy? And who do I think this person will click with well?
Mhm.
And it always works out. And so when after like, people have onboarded and they've been there for that 6 months to a year, and then all of a sudden you see two people that weren't buddied up before, now they're buddied, you're like, touchdown.
Yeah, that is a good one. That's
That's
good.
amazing.
That's a
You
good
got a friend in me.
Yes,
That's
because I feel like it makes when everybody has a friend at work, it
Yeah,
makes it just more enjoyable for them,
yeah.
and it builds trust because
Mhm,
they have that one person on the team that they like to work with,
mhm,
they have things in common,
mhm,
and they can trust each other. And so I always sit there and I kind of think like, I really like this person that I interviewed. I wonder who I think they would kind of like hook up with.
yeah,
And I really feel like for the most part, my team's pretty harmonious with each other. And
mhm.
I think it's because they all have, a buddy at work.
Right.
so you hire for fit, Lindsay?
And you
I
meet
think
the
for
before it even gets there, like, you're meeting and you already are thinking ahead of the game to make sure that your team is set up for success, and that is, like that's mind blowing. That is like, "Touchdown." Yeah, so you're right.
That's really intentional, and I think that's
Ooh.
fantastic because it really shows that you're and I said it jokingly, but you're hiring for fit for
Mhm,
the team
mhm.
because you know that them working well together will then overflow to the patients that they're serving and things like that. I think for me, my ultimate touchdown is seeing my team succeed at something that they set their heart on.
Yeah.
There's nothing that makes me happier. So shameless plug for Lindsay. She actually got the Spotty Award for Leadership at the TSRC this past year.
Yeah,
And
right.
I was like, I don't even know, like, I just lost myself in my feelings, and I got, like, very emotional for her, and I was like, "I'm so proud, and I'm so excited for you,"
Yeah.
because, you're right, there's so much that happens behind closed doors, there's so many things that we have to go through
True.
sometimes to help move things along or gain progress or gain some ground, so to me, there's nothing better than to see someone that has fought the good fight
Mhm,
for something that they truly believe in,
mm,
and then they're progressing, they're winning at something, whatever size that win is for them. It's a win.
yeah.
And something that you had said earlier, Lindsay, that I think Kristi talks a lot about, and I think almost every episode we've recorded is you talked about that coach, and I don't know who his name is because I'm not a super like sportsy person. I failed you in that way for sure.
It's okay. It's okay.
Is when you said that that coach told the team, "Yeah, you suck, you're gonna lose." And Christy has said so many times, like, there's power in the words that we speak onto
Mhm,
people. And
mhm.
people will sometimes will come to us when they're upset or, they've had a really bad day.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how much influence we have to do something positive for them to say, like, hey, through empathy, I know this is hard. I know this is really tough for you. I know you're having a bad day. You can do something about it.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And you give them a different perspective, and, I think that's the one thing that you've given me a lot of, you very politely told me to drink the Kool-Aid. One day, you're just like, "Melissa, I'm sorry to tell you, but nothing will change for you until you drink the Kool-Aid."
Yeah.
But it's true, you know?
So true.
It is. That's so amazing. I mean, I love the fact that you all have one another and that you can have fun and that you can, make light of situations because,
Mhm.
like I said, you always have to have someone, always. I can see it. And so that's good. So as we close out, I think that this has been amazing. Lindsay, your insights have been amazing. And I love the fact that this topic speaks volumes for who you are as a person, individually in your personal life as a sports guru and who you are as a leader. And so if there was something that you were going to leave with the listeners, what would you state? What would that be?
I would like to say, be uplifting to your team.
Mm,
Make an environment where people want to come to work. They leave their families, and especially in healthcare, they're with somebody for 12, 13 hours out of their day,
mhm,
and it's an extended family. Make that environment great. If it's toxic, people don't want to be there. Make
yeah,
it to where, like, hey, if we got to come to work, this is an awesome place to work. And I love my team because we all get along together. And I think that's the most important thing. Just constantly try to be uplifting and, you know, check your feelings from time to time when you're not feeling it and you
yeah,
don't want to go into work that day. You got to check it at the door and you have to go in there and smile on your face and, "Hey, guys, good morning."
yeah, yeah. No, that's good.
I think for me, it's just find opportunities to
Mhm.
have fun with your team, to have fun with your person at work, and get you a leadership buddy. It
Mm,
makes a difference. I will forever be grateful that Lindsay was that for me and has been that for me. And it's good that we have a lot of fun together,
yeah,
and that she knows how to have a good laugh.
that's amazing. It really is. And so I think for me, it's when it comes to teamwork or, leadership just in general, it's not about who actually shines the brightest, but it's
Mm,
how we all light up the space together.
That's
So
good.
that's from our leaders, that's from the team with getting the buy-in and everything that we spoke on here. So teamwork makes the dream work. And as I think we've heard probably all as we were children, is that there is no I in team. So, it's the truth. It really is.
Together, everyone achieves more.
There
Team.
you go. There you go. It's so true. It's so true. And I'm glad that we were able to come together and actually just, put that information out there. And I'm pretty sure, as we always say, anybody who listens to this, if you just get one gem, just one, then our job is done. So again, Lindsay, thank you so much for your time. Melissa, is definitely always a pleasure. And we will be praying, Lindsay, for your success in any endeavor that you have outside of this podcast, and that's personally and professionally. And we're homegirls now. So
Yes, absolutely.
thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Sis Let's Talk Leadership. Have a great night.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Of course.